I never thought my life could change so drastically in a single day. I never believed my story would be a grace to grass story. But here I am, sitting in a cold, dirty cramped cell, staring at the iron bars that separate me from the world I once knew. My name is Sappho, and I swear to you, I didn't do it. I can't even hurt a fly. I'm not a criminal. But right now, that's all anyone sees when they look at me, a guilty man. Let me tell you how I ended up here, in this nightmare I can't seem to wake up from. It all started on a regular Tuesday morning in Kumasi. The sun was shining bright, the air was warm, and the city was kicking with its usual hustle and bustle. I was on my way to work, just like any other day. I work, or should I say worked, as a manager at a small phone shop in Adam. It wasn't glamorous, but it paid the bills, and I was proud of the life I was building. As I walked down the street, I thought about my wife, Afia, and our 2-year-old daughter, Nkunem. Afia was the love of my life, and Nkunem was our little miracle. We had been through so much together, good times and bad, but through it all, we stood by each other. That morning, we took our usual breakfast, cocoa. I promised them to buy them chinchinga from our favorite joint in Asofo when I closed from work. I had no idea that promise would be the last normal moment I'd have for a long time. Around midday, as part of my daily routine when it is 12 p.m. I usually move out from work to buy lunch at my favorite curry and beans joint. While in the queue for my food, I got a call from one of the workers in the shop. He sounded frantic, his voice shaking as he told me the police were at the shop. He said they were looking for me. My heart raced as I tried to make sense of what he was saying. Why would the police be looking for me? I hadn't done anything wrong. The guy begged me to come to the shop immediately. Without thinking, I left my money to the food seller and rushed over. When I got there, there was a police car in front of the shop and 2 policemen were inside the shop. My stomach dropped as I saw them waiting for me, their faces grim. One of the officers, a tall man with a stern expression, approached me. His name was Inspector Ado, and he didn't waste any time. Sappho Asante, you're under arrest for the murder of Mr. Isaac Mensah. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Murder. Isaac. That didn't make any sense. Isaac was an assistant manager and I was the main manager. Isaac was a quiet guy who mostly kept to himself. We weren't close, but we had no bad blood between us, though we argued over the missing phones in our shop some weeks ago, which nearly turned into a fight. And now they were saying I had killed him. I tried to protest, but the officers were not interested in listening. They cuffed me and shoved me into the back of a police car. As we drove away, I looked out the window, my mind racing. How could this be happening? What had I done to deserve this? When we arrived at the station, they took me into a small, dimly lit room which is called counterback in Ghana. I sat there for hours, my thoughts spiraling out of control. Eventually, Inspector Ado came in, carrying a file. He tossed it on the table in front of me, and I saw pictures of Isaac's lifeless body. The sight made me sick. I nearly vomited. You were seen leaving Isaac's house the night he was killed. We have witnesses, Sappho. So, tell me the truth, why did you do it? I felt like I had been slapped in the face. It was a Friday evening, I visited my childhood friend at Asokwa. Isaac happened to live in that same neighborhood. After seeing my friend, I decided to pass by Isaac's place before going home. I had no reason to be there, I just wanted him to know I was in his neighborhood. When I got there, his door was locked. I knocked several times, but there was no response. I called his phone and it was off too. I left the place and returned home. I told the police I had no idea of his death and I didn't even see him that night, but the more I protested, the less they seemed to believe me. I kept saying the same thing over and over, it wasn't me. But my words fell on deaf ears. They told me that Isaac had been found dead in his home 2 nights ago, his body beaten and bruised. There were no signs of forced entry, and nothing had been stolen. The police had no suspects, until someone claimed he saw me leaving Isaac's house late that night. That single statement turned my world upside down. They threw me into this cell while they investigated further. Days turned into weeks, And every time they questioned me, my answer was the same: it wasn't me. Even a guy I shared cell with told me to just accept it and let it go, but I told him I won't let that be my fate. But each time I said I was innocent, I could see the doubt in their eyes. My friends, even Kofi, my childhood friend, started to look at me differently. People I had known my whole life suddenly became strangers. The whispers, the sideways glances, the suspicion, it was all too much to bear. Afia stood by me through it all, bless her heart. She visited every day, bringing me food and hope. But I could see the strain it was putting on her. Our little Kunim didn't understand why Daddy wasn't coming home, why Daddy had a new pair of bracelets on his wrist, why her mother was always sad. It broke my heart. I had spent months in there, going back and forth to court. I saw no sign of hope. I resolved to put things away and become a better person in there. I started making friends. But I realized that when they asked of what brought you there and you tell them you are innocent, they would just laugh and say we all are innocent. Then, one day, everything changed. Inspector Ado came to my cell with a different look in his eyes. He told me they had found new evidence. A fingerprint on a piece of broken glass at the crime scene didn't match mine. It belonged to someone else, someone they hadn't suspected. Turns out, Isaac had been involved in some shady business. He had been buying stolen phones from thieves in Kumasi and had been stocking them in a shop he was about to open. A man whose phone had been stolen by Isaac's guys traced the phone to Isaac's place. He confronted Isaac about the phone, but Isaac told him it was impossible to get the phone back. He told the man to buy the phone again from him. When the man said he couldn't, Isaac threatened him and used violence to drive the man away. The man, who was the real killer, had gone to Isaac's house that night to face him again, and things had turned deadly. The police arrested the man, and just like that, I was cleared. They apologized, said they were sorry for the mistake. But their words didn't mean much. The damage was done. My reputation was shattered, my life turned upside down. I had spent months in a cell for something I didn't do, and now I was expected to just go back to my old life, as if nothing had happened.